Welcome to Meaningful Activities to Generate Interesting Classrooms, Section 4, Part 1, Positioning Activities, Introductory. In this section, we examine how to purposefully position the activities we use in a lesson so that they have the greatest impact. We learn to determine the purpose of the activity as introductory, informational, practice, review, or culminating. Please locate page 67, section 4, part 1, Positioning Activities Introductory. Note the quotations on this page. Placing the ball in the right position for the next shot is 80% of winning golf. As a teacher, we must have the same mindset when positioning the activities we use. Figure out your purpose and then position yourself accordingly. It is important to determine the purpose of the activity and then position the activity accordingly. In this section, we will experience activities that lend themselves to different purposes. Please locate page 68, Section Overview and Section Objectives, and page 69, Section Map. Then, please locate page 70, Research Excerpts, and read from the experts and highlight points that are most relevant to you. What research excerpts were most relevant to you? Remember, effective activities require a lot of planning that purposefully connects the activity to curriculum content. Learning is not a spectator sport. Students prefer to be active rather than passive learners. Although activity-based learning is powerful, activities can be overdone and just fluff without planning and purpose. Let's continue our discussion of various ways we can position activities to have the most impact. There are particular times within a lesson that are perfect for activity-based learning, and there are certain activities that lend themselves to a particular purpose. Please locate page 71, Positioning Activities. When we plan our units, there are particular times within a lesson that are a perfect opportunity for activity-based learning. Likewise, there are certain activities that lend themselves to a particular purpose. Throughout this section, you are going to experience activities that have a purpose and are positioned as introductory, informational, practice, review, or culminating activities. At the beginning of each activity in this section, you will find the purpose or positioning of the activity. Remember that deciding the purpose of an activity is part of the O in SCORE, or organization. However, know that each activity can be adapted and used for a different purpose, if desired. Most activities in this section can be used at any grade level and in any subject area. Certain activities may work better with particular ages of students due to their ability to read or use other skills. However, you can modify or adapt almost all of the activities in this course to your content area and grade level. After each activity, there is a table that lists the activity assets. Activity assets are there to assist you with the planning and implementation of each activity. It lists multiple pathways to learning, skills of life, and questions for life thinking skills. Remember that these are the 3 areas you should be aware of when you plan and debrief your activities. Remember, we want our activities to support multiple pathways for learning. We also want students to know how the activity connects to the content, the skills they utilize, and the thinking skills they employ. The first type of activity we are going to discuss is introductory activities, or what we previously referred to as opening acts. Introductory activities are used to introduce a lesson, stimulate curiosity, and engage the brain. Please locate page 72, Engaging the Brain, Introductory Activities, Opening Acts, and read the paragraphs on this page. As you read, highlight the points that are relevant to you. Please refer back to page 5, Opening Acts in the Classroom, where you listed some of the opening acts you already use or could use. Notice this cartoon where a teacher asks, "What do you call this cake?" The student replies, "I don't know what it's called. I use the right side of my brain when I bake." As the author points out, we want to communicate to our students that they should challenge all areas of your mind, stretch and exercise your brain like any other part of your body. This student is exercising his brain and challenging his mind to stretch and be creative. Remember, as we move through the first part of Section 4, you will experience a variety of introductory activities or opening acts that you can add to your repertoire. Offering a variety of introductory activities stretches the mind, engages the brain, and encourages students to be curious about what they are going to experience in class. Introductory activities do not have to be time-intensive or complicated to be effective. They can be something as simple as a sign. Please locate page 73, Activity, Content-Oriented Signs, Artifacts. One way to stimulate curiosity in students is to hang a sign on the board or the classroom door that gives a clue or preview of what students will be studying. It can be a quote or statement like, "Braddock's blunder," or "General Wolfe calls Quebec's bluff," or "General Montcalm can't remain calm." Students can discuss the meaning of these statements or research them as they come to class. You can also make a sign like the ones illustrated on this page and ask students to predict what they are going to be learning in class that day. Mr. Wizard's statement on the sign in your manual causes students to wonder how 1 and 1 doesn't equal 2. It piques students' interest regarding the science lesson they are going to do. When the activity occurs later in the day, student groups are given 2 test tubes. One is filled to a line with water and the other with rubbing alcohol. The 2 are then poured together into a larger test tube and shaken. Then the ingredients are poured back into their original test tubes, and students discover that a significant amount of liquid appears to be missing. The molecules have slipped inside the empty spaces of each ingredient, and students end up with 1 and 1 not equaling 2. Later in the year, if 1 and 1 doesn't equal 2 is mentioned, it is likely students will recall the results of the experiment. The poetry smells sign was used by a teacher to create interest in a poetry activity. In this activity, students sniff 10 small containers with common smells emanating from the contents inside. Students can't look inside, only smell. They write down what they think causes each smell. After everyone is finished, the smells are identified. The students then have an opportunity to write a poem about one of the smells or to incorporate several smells into a poem. The last sign was used by a teacher to stimulate curiosity in an activity in which students build a Seminole Indian home, similar to the one on the card. In the activity, which was held later in the day, students made a Seminole house as authentic as possible and added vegetation and wildlife. Other Seminole customs were displayed around or in the house. A map was created of the entire country and placed on a table. The Seminole houses were placed on the map in the areas occupied by the tribe. Other houses were made representing other tribes as well. Another way to stimulate curiosity is to bring an artifact that relates to the lesson and ask students to guess what it is. In the third paragraph on page 73, please read the examples of artifacts used by other educators. Classroom Connections. Please locate page 74, Classroom Connections. Use a sheet of copy paper and markers to make a content-oriented sign you could use in your classroom. What signs did you make? What content-oriented artifacts might you use to stimulate curiosity? Please review the activity assets on page 74 to debrief this activity. Remember, we want to engage our students' brains from the moment they enter the classroom. We want our students to be curious and look forward to what they will learn. This activity shows how you can accomplish this with little time and effort. Our next activity is another example of how you can use an introductory activity in a content-oriented way. Students can work on this as they come to class, and then you can discuss that answer once class starts. Please locate page 75, Activity Punctuation. Notice the sentence, Mary Ann and Sue will go to the store and buy chocolate, ice cream, vanilla, fudge cookies, cheese crackers, and strawberries. Place commas in the sentence to accurately answer the questions posed. How many girls are going to the store? The most answers would be 3, Mary Ann and Sue. The least answers would be 2, Mary Ann and Sue. How many items are they supposed to buy? The most, 9. Chocolate, ice, cream, vanilla, fudge, cookies, cheese, crackers, and strawberries. The least would be 4. Chocolate ice cream, vanilla fudge cookies, cheese crackers, and strawberries. This introductory activity provides a compelling why for accurate punctuation if you want to communicate clearly. Here's another example of the importance of accurate punctuation. Please read the first 2 paragraphs of the Oracle of Delphi on page 75. For example, one queen asked the oracle what the sex of her baby would be, and the oracle replied, boy, no girl. Punctuate the statement to show the 2 possible answers. What 2 ways did you punctuate the statement? Boy, comma, no girl, or boy no, comma, girl. On another occasion, the king asked the oracle whether an offender should be put to death or allowed to live. The message the oracle gave the king was, pardon impossible to be sentenced to death. Please punctuate the statement to show the 2 possible answers. What 2 ways did you punctuate the statement? Pardon, comma, impossible to be sentenced to death. Or pardon impossible, comma, to be sentenced to death. What topic in your curriculum would lend itself to a content-oriented introductory activity? What ideas do you have? Please locate page 76, Classroom Connections. Could you word math problems based on the lesson from the previous day? Discuss certain quotations from a story students are reading and then predict how it relates to the story. Could you set up an experiment and ask students to predict the results? Please review the activity assets on page 76 to debrief this activity. Remember, these introductory activities can be a powerful motivator. It is also important to vary the type of introductory activity you do so that you keep it interesting and unpredictable. As you move through the course, you will have a list of ideas on your Classroom Connections card you can immediately implement in your classroom. Our next introductory activity can be used to engage the brain while fostering students' ability to challenge assumptions and search for alternatives. Please locate page 77, Droodles. Droodles were developed by Roger Price many years ago and were published in newspapers and magazines at the time. Droodles are a form of doodling that asks students to use their visual spatial intelligence and think from a different perspective, such as a bird's eye view. Students can work to solve the droodle or create their own. Droodles can be content-oriented or can be used to engage the brain through problem solving. Please take a look at page 77 and brainstorm at least 3 different things that the droodle on this page could be. What ideas did you have for this droodle? Did you think it was 4 pool cues and a cue ball on a pool table? 4 elephant trucks waiting for dinner or taking a drink? A ceiling fan? The view of the sky between 4 buildings? 4 canoes leaving a drowning bald man? A bald man with 4 cannons pointed at him? A nearsighted firing squad? All of your answers are potential possibilities for this droodle. Roger Price called this droodle 4 elephants inspecting a grapefruit. Please go to Canvas, Modules, Section 4, Part 1, Droodles. Use a blank piece of paper and thin markers, colored pencils, or crayons to create your own droodle. If possible, create a droodle that relates to a concept or topic you teach. Upload a photo of your droodle to the discussion area. Respond to at least 2 of your classmates' droodles with your guesses of what it could be. After 2 classmates have offered guesses, reveal what your droodle is. Please locate page 78, Setting Targets to Foster Mind Expansion. When an answer jumps right out at you, you may sigh with relief and stop thinking any further. Students do the same thing. One of the first steps in the creative thinking process is to get students to look beyond the first, most obvious answer by setting targets to foster mind expansion. You may have noticed that I had you come up with 3 different answers for the droodle. For the droodles the class created, you were asked to come up with at least 2 guesses for each one. To challenge students to go beyond the obvious or right answer and look for other possibilities, we can set targets for them. Targets can be any number of answers you want them to find. In the teacher's mind, the target is a minimum number of alternative answers that students must produce. Setting targets is one way to expand student thinking, encourage brainstorming, and cultivate creative responses. What content-oriented topic could you use to have students create content-oriented droodles? Did you create a droodle using geometric shapes students are studying that represents a character or event in a story, that represents a historical character or event, that represents a certain biological concept or species? What activity in your curriculum would lend itself to setting targets to foster mind expansion? Could you predict 3 ways the story might end? Come up with 4 things in students' essays they need to change. Come up with 2 different ways the character in the story could handle the situation. Please review the activity assets on page 78 to debrief this activity. Remember, we want students to be flexible thinkers who can think divergently and from multiple perspectives. These types of activities provide that exposure yet create a sense of mystery that engages learners and leaves them wanting more. You will find that students are challenged by this type of introductory activity and therefore become more engaged in learning. Another application of introductory activities is to engage the brain and prime the pump for learning. This can be done by using introductory activities that may not directly correlate to your curriculum, but do foster critical and/or creative thinking skills. Please locate page 79, Brain Teasers, Logic Problems, and Mysteries. Notice the quotation on the page by Douglas Adams in The Salmon of Doubt. All opinions are not equal. Some are a great deal more robust, sophisticated, and well supported in logic and arguments than others. How does this relate to brain teasers, logic problems, and mysteries? Brain teasers, logic problems, and mysteries are powerful introductory activities because they stimulate a multitude of thinking skills, both critical thinking and creative thinking skills. They utilize pattern thinking. Innately, the brain does a compare-contrast, asking, how is this problem the same or different to problems I have encountered previously? The brain begins to observe, make associations, analyze, combine knowledge and information, make generalizations, brainstorm solutions, and make decisions. Remember, these types of introductory activities engage the brain for learning, stimulate curiosity, and activate the seeking system. Keep in mind that these brain teasers, logic problems, and mysteries may or may not be content-oriented. Introductory activities also provide an opportunity to present students with authentic, real-world situations that require critical thinking, problem-solving, and creative solutions. Please locate page 80, Activity Dog Kennels. A man owns 3 dogs and keeps them in 3 separate kennels. The man is given yet another dog by a friend, but he can't afford to build a 4th kennel. Still, he must keep the 4 dogs separated in different kennels. First, arrange the 9 toothpicks to create the 3 kennels as shown on this page. Now, arrange the 9 toothpicks to create the 3 kennels as shown on this page. Then, arrange the 9 toothpicks to make 4 equal-sized kennels, 1 for each dog. You must use all 9 toothpicks in each solution and find the toothpicks that remain whole. Keep your solutions to yourself as much as possible. Find at least 2 solutions and draw your solutions on this page. What solutions did you find? The rest of this session will be for you to work independently through the material. There will now be narrated PowerPoints on Canvas, Module Section 4, Part 1, to walk you through the rest of today's activities. Please be sure to post the activities in the discussion area or submitted assignment area before our next class. Remember, even though these activities are not graded, they must be completed to report your successful completion to your university partner. Immediately after the conference call, you will go to Canvas Module Section 4 Part 1, Positioning Activities, Introductory 1-Minute Mysteries, where you will work with a group to solve a mystery in a very short amount of time. Your next video reflects on content-oriented mysteries. Will you be able to solve the mystery of the coin? The third video focuses on classroom and reflection connections. What activities from the course stood out to you this time? The fourth video helps us reflect on Activity Sharing Session 2, where you will have a chance to share your Assessment 2 with your grade level groups. I hope you learned some new strategies for your classroom. Finally, we will be introduced to 3 of the assessments that make up the course portfolio. We will introduce Assessment 6, 7, and 8. Also, I want to remind you to continue preparing your 13 Colonies informational display. Let the good times begin. If you have any questions while you work, please call or email your instructor. This concludes Section 4, Part 1, Introduction Conference Call. Please continue to Module Section 4, Part 1, Positioning Activities, Introductory, 1-Minute Mysteries.